So when we talk about living lightly, normally in our classes, we mean like acceptance and contentment. But this evening, we mean it in the true sense of the word, which is living life lightly, free from grasping, free from the grasping of ignorance, which is this root delusion. So if you think of suffering as like a tree, and our kind of day-to-day suffering, it's like, all the branches and, they've all the twigs and branches and leaves and fruit. That's like our day-to-day suffering. If you trace that back, eventually you get to the delusions in the mind, of which there are 26, and they can arise in all sorts of different combinations. You trace them back, you come to 3, ignorance, anger, and attachment. You trace them back, you come to ignorance. So ignorance pervades every other mistaken mind, and every mistaken action is motivated by a mistaken mind. And so every experience of suffering that comes from our mistaken actions and mistaken minds, we can trace back to ignorance. So it's not just some kind of philosophical debate. I think sometimes when we first hear about it, it sounds less practical than some of the things that we do here. Because maybe when we come, we just want to be less stressed, more peaceful. And that feels like the practical edge. So a lot of the methods that we look at will help us to do that. And so will emptiness. Emptiness is like the ultimate panacea for all of our suffering, because it's going to get that root of ignorance out. It's going to free us from that root of ignorance. When we don't have ignorance, we have wisdom. They're mutually exclusive. So from one point of view, we need to kind of work on reducing our suffering in our mind, but that's like trimming back the tree. Ultimately, ideally, you want to get it out by the root.